Yeah, I was telling him when I was first like looking into apprenticeships and stuff, like I watched every video I could find on YouTube of people talking about it. And like they'd give you maybe some information, but it was never really information. It was like go figure it out, which I get that. But I also feel like maybe giving people like a general correct direction maybe could be valuable to some people.
Yeah, and then probably even for clients, whenever they're like, "How did you get started? What did that look like?" Because really, who knows what that unless you just start the stuff, which we've all done. Like, how do you even start to ask?
Right. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people just will hit the can't find information on apprenticeship, don't know anybody who's like open about wanting to take somebody on.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where people just typically go to kitchen tattooing or at home tattooing or whatever.
Yeah, because I think long gone are the days of people going door to door for sure and stepping in and asking. Perfect story is Adam, like how dude didn't even turn around.
Yeah.
It just was like whatever. And I mean, I remember kind of getting shot down too, going into shops. Just like, hey, can I get a pointer or two? I was never asking for an apprenticeship, but
maybe it's just because like I hang around you all the time, but it seems like maybe now if somebody were to go the right way of like asking and like being respectful, that it probably you'd get treated a lot better now than when you were doing that.
Yeah.
Do you think that's true?
And I think that it would be a surprise, like, whoa, you actually took the time to walk in. You took that risk to walk in. I don't think that's ever happened. Everyone's always reached out through email, which I get. That's the safest way to ensure, but it's also the safest way.
Right. Yeah.
You know, like you never know what you're gonna get if and when you walk into a shop. Yeah, so it's like, what were your guys', I guess, thoughts on like, how do I even go about this? Where do I start? And then, you know, how would you get an apprenticeship? Ladies first.
I mean, I had a friend with direct connect to you, so that's how the conversation started.
But had you not had that, what was plan B, maybe?
Plan B?
Or was
there was, I don't know. I hadn't thought that far. I don't think that far. Yeah, I don't know. I had the idea because I had the nonprofit, and then I thought this would be awesome if I could offer cover-up somehow. Don't know if that's possible. I know someone I could ask. And that kind of started the journey here, but I did Google a couple forums just to see kind of like what you did, just to read what's out there, what is it like, I don't know. It was all over the place.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, okay, this is, I was like, okay, I'm gonna X out of the window, sit down with you and just, what is it about? And I think that way all the noise is gone.
Right.
And I can just hear how you approach things.
Yeah, I think with a lot of things, sitting and thinking about something is more than likely going to lead to not doing it instead of just like it's like cleaning your room or something. It's
Maybe
like,
this is a bad idea.
Yeah. For me, so the first time I ever got tattooed by the guy, I was just curious. I'd always been like interested in tattooing, thought it'd be super cool. Zero idea of what that entailed.
Yeah.
And I just kind of asked him, and his response was like, well, I just fucked up a bunch of my friends and then kind of figured it out after a while. So I was like, that's how you become a tattooer, I guess. And then at that time, I was like, that's crazy. Like, people let you tattoo them and yada, yada, whatever. But then when I became more serious about it, I honestly, and I don't even know if it's the right way, I just like took everything that I thought I maybe knew about it and just kind of put it to the side and just did research because I knew I really didn't know anything besides what that guy had told me. And it was definitely like half and half. It was like, yeah, dude, apprenticeships are like old school. You don't need that shit anymore. Like, if you want to do it, go do it. and then there was that other half that was just like, go talk to people, reach out, yada yada. The biggest thing that I got from every forum or video or whatever was, if you're gonna go somewhere to talk to somebody, like, have something to bring them. Like, people, if you just walk in, they're probably gonna be tattooing or have other shit going on.
Yeah.
So just be respectful of time and bring something to show. And I expected I was gonna hear no 20 times before I heard
It's
a
cool that
yes.
you were at least prepared for that.
Yeah, I was for sure. Like,
How many times did you think you would hear no?
I
Didn't
had
make
no
it that
idea.
far yet.
Yeah, I just was like, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
If it's a no, well then, I don't know.
I had
tried.
fully prepared when I came in here to talk to you and like Nye. I fully expected that, and just had in my head that I was gonna get torn apart and told to, like, maybe not get the fuck out, but like go home. You know, that's just what I told myself.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know,
Yeah.
hope for the best, prepare for the worst kind of thing.
Exactly. Well, so then, how would one? What would you recommend, or what? Because it sounds like maybe, because I think you even had like a referral almost from the people that I used to work with. They're like, hey, I know a guy, and you had a referral. So for people who don't get a referral, who don't have friends whose friends or whatever tattoo artists, then what? Do you send an email? Do you walk in? Do you?
In my head, I wanted to send an email first. Like, I believe in my email to you, said I'm sending an email if you have a time where I could come down and chat, or chat on the phone, because I felt like I might be a waste of space kind of walking in if you were in the middle of an appointment or something, or like, you know, like, here's this, and let me know when works for you. In my mind, that made sense. I don't know.
Like a heads up.
Yeah. Like, hey, when is good for you for me to inquire more, I guess.
Yeah. And I guess too, you know, maybe those days of just walking in because of email and social media, like maybe it's not as prevalent because of that. Like, you know, before people were emailing too much, I guess that was like the only way. You either call the shop, they probably would never answer, or you just had to walk in. But then walk-in shops were just way more common too. So it wasn't uncommon for people to just walk into a shop.
Yeah, that's true.
Period. But I had a question whenever you guys were talking, but then I forgot it. So why even get an apprenticeship?
Why not just get a Timu gun and go for it, right? I think you can't just dive into a craft and think that you know what you're doing. And I mean, I was lost. I didn't know what I was doing. I had to learn.
Yeah.
And there's like getting acquainted around the space even, like, and there's a lot of things going on during the apprenticeship at the same time that you have to get used to. And even if you try to do like a YouTube, teach yourself, get a Amazon Timu kit, what are you going to do when you actually have to be put into a real world situation?
Yeah, out of the comfort of your own home. Yeah, because there's going to be steps that follow that. Like if you do get your own stuff, watch YouTube, now what? I think most people don't know that if they want to go anywhere with it, they're going to have to get an apprenticeship. That's just state law, at least for here. I would assume that it's that way most places too. Every place that I can think of, you have to be licensed. But like we talked about in Colorado, they don't care. Just bloodborne pathogens and pay some money and you're fine. We don't care how you learned.
Yeah, I think too, like, besides the fact of knowing and learning how to tattoo properly and be sanitary and whatever, like kind of touching on what you said and a little bit what you said, like if you want to really go somewhere in this trade or business or whatever, like, you need to know how to carry yourself in a tattoo shop.
Yeah.
Or if you're self-taught and you never worked in a studio, with other people or whatever, if you go to like a convention or so, I feel like people could smell you out like pretty quick.
Yeah.
Others in the community, you know.
Well, and two, I think if you get an apprenticeship, hopefully with somebody who's been around it for a minute, who has done things like conventions, guest spots, maybe whatever, then you're only going to benefit from that person's experience, especially going into, I remember I've seen people when they're at their first convention, they're like, I'm so scared right now.
Yeah.
But then at least hopefully they've got somebody to lean on where like, okay, what do I even expect? What's first, second, and third? What happens in these scenarios? So yeah, you don't really get that without an apprenticeship.
Right.
And plugging into somebody who's been there and done it before.
And if somebody, like, I would way rather have somebody pass out and fall out of their chair here than do that at my apartment and like, what the fuck do I do now? You know, or like homeless dude coming in and like bugging you, like those are skills in themselves. Where sitting in your apartment tattooing, you know, you don't learn that stuff. You don't learn how to navigate those things.
Well, and aside from all those things, then there is like the actual tattoo portion of learning how to get in.
Most importantly, right.
You know, it's like, I remember, I think it was the second time I bought tattoo equipment. You know, I'd already done it once, just for a small, short amount of time, and then I remember getting my second kit and literally opening the box and going, now what? Like, which one of these is the shader? How do you know? No idea. And so, although now you don't even have to worry about that, which is a liner, which is a shader, because it's just all in the one machine. But imagine starting that way though too, just with, you know, the wand, the pen style machine. It just literally goes up and down. So if you're struggling with something, you don't really know, you may not know why. Why is this line, why do my lines not look like that that I see on the old YouTube? Yeah, right? Why don't they? So then in an apprenticeship, you learn things about needle depth, you know, like stroke, voltage, speed, stretch, different parts of the skin, all of that stuff that you could probably figure it out. It's just going to take a lot longer to do. I'm self-taught, and I beat my head against the wall for like 2 years before I was even making any sort of traction.
Where you could obtain that knowledge almost immediately.
Yeah, exactly. Well, at least you're immersed in it a lot more. But then, then there's obviously then just the safety concerns of working on a person's skin. You go too deep, then you're going to scar the skin. You go too shallow, it's not even a tattoo. It's just like a temporary tattoo. Improper antiseptic technique versus proper. Those are things that aren't considered, I don't think, whenever somebody's like, yeah, I want to be a tat god. Oh, okay. Here's a whole list of stuff that you probably didn't even think of, which what is expected of an apprentice day to day? And because I've heard from people like, I know what's expected of an apprentice, but then sometimes you meet people and are like, no, you don't. You literally thought you were going to just rise to the top right away. And so what did you guys think whenever you were like, okay, I found a place, I get to start, what am I going to do? What's the day-to-day going to be like? What was your honest, like
anticipation before?
Yeah, and like assumption of what was going to happen like on day one?
I had like a tour. I don't know. When you start your first job, this is where the bathrooms are.
Which happened.
This is where, yeah, it did.
I think I remember specifically walking you around and telling you all the stories that were connected to all the art.
Yeah.
Because there was one specific piece in here that I'm like, I don't know if you're going to like it or not, because other people had said that it was scary and it was like a portal to hell.
Yeah.
You're
testing me. Can she handle this?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fine. I don't know if I had a lot like in my head that was preconceived. I get really excited about doing new things, and so I had a lot of excitement. There weren't a lot of nerves. I think I just wanted to show up and do my best and hear what the first day was, because otherwise if I try to think ahead of all the other days, then I'm gonna get overwhelmed or tell myself it's not gonna happen or I'm not gonna make it or whatever. So just focus on the first day and kind of show up and see what happens.
I remember you saying though, didn't you drive here the day before?
Oh yeah, I did. I had okay.
Just to know where you
because
parked.
I need to know where to park.
So there was like some like, okay,
because I can't be late.
No,
I don't want to be late.
Early is on time is late.
Like
For all of
I
you.
hate being late to anything.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna awkwardly drive by and make sure I know where it is. Because the other thing is, if I don't know where a place is and it's kind of like not easy to find, I will get lost.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I won't know where to park, and I'll end up doing circles,
Mm-hmm.
especially if it's downtown. But I didn't know it was gonna be like
Right.
really small
Right.
down.
It's not a metropolis
Yeah.
down here by any means. Yeah.
I do. You remember you telling me that too, pretty immediately, to showing up. Like, I appreciate you being here a little bit early,
Yeah.
which I think would be valuable to anybody going to meet anybody for that kind of thing,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
any professional thing in general.
I've
really,
always
but-
shown up early as much as I possibly can.
Right.
These days I've gotten a lot more relaxed. Like, I think I showed up at like 10 o'clock right on the dot, to let you in. Anna was already here, so it was fine. But yeah, somebody's early. But yeah, I've always liked early is on time is late.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're late, just go home.
Yeah.
But what was like your
I again, like, I feel like just with things in general and in life, I always hope for the best, prepare for the worst. Like, it's my mentality when I go into things. So again, I'd read like a million horror stories from people.
yeah.
I feel like it was fairly similar to kind of what I had expected. I just got treated like a human, which I appreciate,
Yeah, I guess that was the question. We kind of got off topic.
But no, like, really, yeah, just cleaning, and like, it's at your space and everybody else's space, like keeping it clean. To me, like, now where I'm at, looking back, I think like the biggest things are, I mean, you always say pay attention to smells, how things look when you first walk in, and then just like making sure that your mentor is prepared for what they're going to do. Like, it's not going to be the same thing every single day,
Right.
but it's just like trying to kind of stay ahead of things a little bit.
Yeah.
And I feel like as long as you do that and like care, you probably be all right.
Yeah, so I think how I approach it is like the day to day. Here's what you should expect every day when you come in as a new person, as an apprentice, and that is like the first thing is we just clean. Like, I've cleaned. I've been cleaning tattoo shops since for 18 years or whatever. And I remember the first legit shop. My favorite thing was mopping the floor. I love making the floor look so clean and just inviting. And so I took pride in mopping the stupid floor. And because, I mean, we've all cleaned, we all do clean the shop, and it's like, well, it's only fair that you learn that too, and you go through that too. And then too, it's like, then you get to actually see the shop. Yeah. You're touching the shop. You understand like all the nooks and crannies of the shop. And then, so what is the thing that I've said to you guys? I've said this to other people, but you guys are the only.
Like when we first started?
Yeah, like what are the 3 things? Do you remember those? Do you remember them?
Watch,
Yep.
Oh.
draw, clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So watch, draw, clean. That's it. Those are the only things you have to worry about. And coming in.
And I feel like if you like show up right off the bat and don't naturally want to do those 3 things, like, you probably shouldn't even. Yeah. Like if you're 2 weeks in, you're like, I'm fucking sick.
It's too much drawing.
Yeah,
I
like,
didn't know I was gonna
this
draw
is-
this much.
and it's like,
Why don't you take out your own trash now?
Yeah.
I've been here 2 weeks.
it's like the Mr. Miyagi thing too, though, of like, wax on, wax off. Like, okay,
Why am I even doing this?
you've mopped the floor a million times,
Yep.
but like I've heard you say there'll be times where you're tattooing something or doing like big tribal and it's just black.
Yep.
Wax on, wax off. It's
Yep.
like may not be, you know, it's just
It's literally like mopping the floor or mowing
just
the grass.
taking your time and
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yep. And then yeah, watch. I'm always a big fan of, like, because I've personally learned and still do learn from watching people. That's usually why I try to get all my tattoos done where I can watch the artist, or I buy DVDs so that I can watch these pros. And a lot of times what's funny is like, I remember one time watching Brandon up in One Life. He was just using red, and then I looked. He was doing a nautical star, of course. And then I noticed, it was like, how did it get dark red? And he just like did some dipping. I'm like, how'd you do that? He's like, you don't do that? I'm like, I have no idea how to do that. And it was like the coolest thing to get to see that. And it's fun though to also learn or just watch how does this dude pull a line? How does this dudette blend color? So watching is always, and then hopefully then you get the opportunity to ask, or it's like, oh, I've seen you do that before. You know, why do you do that? Or, oh, that, now I see why you do that. So yeah, watch, draw, clean. Obviously drawing is important. I don't think that anybody should tattoo unless they can draw first. And then you get to graduate into doing the lazy stuff like tracing. But everybody traces, and that's the other thing too, is like such a misconception that everybody draws everything. Wasn't it you? Or like, I thought you had to draw portraits.
I still sometimes, like, I say most of the time, if somebody's like, I want this, and I'm like, okay, well, we can do this, but we're gonna do it a little like this.
Yeah.
Even just like tracing some things, I'm like, I like feel bad about it. Like, it's just okay, but everybody.
I do remember learning that trade secret, like, and it would always be pitched as, did you draw that or did you use reference? Like, well, yeah, I used reference. I looked at it.
Yeah.
They're like, no, like you trace the reference. What? You can do that? And that was kind of freeing to me because it was super stressful.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I was like, I'd look at stuff and I'd be like, I'm never gonna be able to fucking just like just watching people how they can pull like things out of their brain. Like look at like Brandon, and I'm like, I just don't think I could ever do that.
There's the psychos like that too. Scotty Munster's another one.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god.
And I just thought that if you weren't like that, you're out. I'm like, dude, I don't know if I could do that.
Well, and what's interesting is that there's even these guys who we all look at and have looked up to. I've found their references on Google. Oh, that's that bird that he drew. And you could tell that he probably redrew it. Maybe not. But if he did, it's exactly like the reference. So that's why drawing is important. Clean, watch, draw. And yeah, cleaning is like, what do our clients smell, see, hear when they first walk in the door?
I think too with the watch thing, I hear you ask him all the time, what are you thinking when you're doing stuff? I think you probably do like a lot of stuff tattooing that you don't even know you do, or watching like some, you know what I mean? You can learn things that you may not even think of presenting to somebody or don't even notice that you do.
And that's the other thing that I think I remember for sure telling both of you guys is like, I'm sometimes not going to know what you don't know. So you might have to steer the ship in the apprenticeship as well. Just like, tell me what you're wondering about, or what is it that you're wanting to know right now? Because I'm going to probably overload you with all of these things. So then it's like an opportunity. Like I always tell everybody though too, I don't know everything. Like I know a lot, I know enough to get you started, but if there's something that I haven't thought of yet, I'd like to know that so that I can implement that. And then, any more things about that?
I don't think so.
How long did you guys think about how long an apprenticeship would last?
I don't remember, but I remember learning about how many hours.
Yeah.
And then just trying to come up with a rough estimate in my head, like how fast could I do this realistically, and then how, if I gave it a longer estimate, what would that look like? So yeah, I think in my head I was like, it'd be really cool if it was like under 2 years. Would be awesome. So I don't know, that's kind of how I...
Well, then maybe the question is, what does it look like when an apprenticeship is done? What does that even mean?
I think I get asked by like every other person who I tattoo, like, when you're done with your apprenticeship, and I'm like, honestly, as long as I'm here with you guys, I always hold this for like, it could be 20 years and like I'm still like the apprentice. You're always learning. I don't know, but I think like a gauge of what like official I had kind of like read and anticipated like around 2 years.
Yeah.
I don't know where I got that number, but
yeah, I think I've heard that too. I think I've heard, like some people don't even get to touch a tattoo machine till like after a year.
I heard a lot of that. Yeah.
Yep. And and so then how I do it, how I've done it is, okay, you clean, wash, draw, clean, wash, draw, clean, wash, draw. Now your first assignment is draw 50 or 100 designs. And then what happens? And then we get to practice those, right, on fake skin. And then that's kind of where you see, oh, my drawing.
None of this shit works.
This I need to draw differently.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. I've ran across the email that I sent you. Initially, and I think it was like, oh, go through the alphabet and draw 2 things. Was it 2 things?
Yeah, 2
animals. Is it animals?
I did things from my childhood.
Oh, that was a different
second thing. Okay, assignment. I did a letter from the alphabet. Did I do 1 of each?
I think I had you do 2 because then that kind of equaled 50.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh, and it was like 1 how you would draw it, and the second one was like, I don't remember.
How I would draw and then simplified, because that's where I had a lot of like trying to figure out how to rewire my brain essentially for drawing something small for a tattoo.
Yep.
That stuff can be super hard depending on what it is, trying to like I heard you asked Nate, like, how do you take this and break it down?
Yeah.
Sometimes that can be super hard.
Yeah. Because like especially if you're doing something like a portrait, there's no structure to that at all. Other than maybe if you give the nose a hard line, like so sometimes whenever you're looking at an image for reference, it's like, where's the pattern? Where do I put an edge? Where do I put a line? But then as far as like drawing what you typically draw, how you typically draw, I remember yours, whenever we printed them out, it was like, okay, you got to go back and simplify all these things. But then I think you broke it down really good to where it's like, oh, it's like a logo.
Yeah, that helped me. Because with a logo, you're supposed to be able to recognize it from afar, like whether huge on a billboard or when you're far away on the road, or tiny print, like as a letterhead. So I'm like, okay, I can do that. That's simple.
Yeah.
You have to think about the silhouette of it.
Yeah.
And then you said it like a sticker.
Yep.
And that helped me figure out how to simplify something to be little.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then too, what was the question that I asked you?
How did it start? Right?
Oh yeah, you were asking just like you had us draw the 100.
Oh yeah.
And then kind of where we were going from there.
Yeah, I had her do 50, and I think the person before was 50. I think the person before both of those people was 50, and I just decided to double it for you.
It was good. Like I remember the last like 30 sitting in here on like a Thursday night with Nye, and I like just can't even think of anything at all, and I'm just like, there's a bell on the wall. Let's try to draw a bell. There is a flag there. Yeah. Let's try to draw a flag. Like this. But that in itself helped a lot with like reference. I think you had told me like look for tattoo stuff everywhere.
Inspiration
you go.
is always around. Yep.
inspiration is always around you.
And a lot of times for me, it's not even what I see, it's what I hear. I love picking up stuff on music. Like, oh, that, like lately there's this one line that I want to draw, like lyrics. I'm like, well, what imagery would I put to that to be able to convey what those words say other than the words? But you know, sometimes then too, it's like the lyrics, like this whole sheet back here, like that's all from song lyrics. And so they just repeat fight fair over and over again. I'm like, well, what are weapons that would make it not fighting fair?
Yeah, right.
So that's why, like Molotov cocktail, that's not very fair. But then it's also just kind of twisting that. And then this one's all Drake, which I guess we don't like him anymore or something, I'm told. I don't know. I don't know what's cool and what's not. But that's why, that's what we were talking about, is that when you get to touch a tattoo machine, the first time you touch a tattoo machine is when you're setting up and learning to set up. And then that's taught so that then you can just set up, and then you learn how to tear down safely. And then what I've done is, yeah, you draw 50 or 100 designs, modify them if need be. And then once that's done, then we get to practice them on fake skin. And so however long that takes really for a person to draw 50 to 100 designs, it's usually, at least for me, because you're here for a reason. You're here to learn how to tattoo. So I'm not just going to prolong it just for shits and giggles. It's like, well, we're here for a purpose, so let's just get to that purpose.
Right.
And I've been told in a roundabout way that it's too soon. They're like, yeah, how long should it be? Like, well, I don't know. Who's to say?
Right.
How long does it take a person to drive? I don't know. Where are they learning to drive? Do they learn in Minneapolis, or do they learn way out in the country like I did, like where there's nobody else around, maybe a dog? It's totally different. And so that's usually, I like to have things measurable though too, so that even apprentices know, like, okay, here's what's next. If I do these things, then I get that next to that level. And then once that's level achieved, and then after a while, it's kind of like, okay, now we're tattooing people. And so then how long does an apprenticeship last? You know, the state mandates 200 hours of on-skin time, and that's fine and dandy. I've had some people who've been able to be here full time because they're unemployed. They can crank through, as long as they have people that can sit in the chair, they will crank through that 200 hours. And so everybody's different. I think both of you guys were like here 3-ish days a week. And so that slows it down a little bit. And then not only that, but then it's like, well, how long do each of these tattoos take to finish? I've seen people, tiny tattoos will take an hour and a half. I was like, wow, you're gonna get these 200 hours pretty quick.
Yeah.
But then like I feel like you should be so close because of the size of work that you've been doing. And when you told me what you were at the other day, I'm like, oh, wow, you're like a third of the way through.
Yeah.
So that's just a measurement of how long does an apprenticeship last. But I think, in my opinion, once you've reached your 200 hours, it's like now the training wheels are kind of off in a way. Now you got to learn how to pop a wheelie. You got to learn how to do some sick jumps.
Yeah.
You've already done your 200 hours. You're a third-ish of the way there, and there's still more to learn. There's still more that you haven't seen. And so how long does an apprenticeship take? I don't know. I really don't know, because I don't know that there's ever a finish line.
Yeah.
These days, what I hate is like usually the 200 hours indicates to most dipshits that, okay, it's time to open my shop.
Yeah. You know,
like,
everything.
you just finished.
Right.
But then the other thing, here we go, I'm gonna rant now, is that there's people who've just finished their 200 hours. Now well, by law, they're not supposed to teach people until they've been licensed for 2 years. But even that, how long have you been tattooing?
I don't remember when I finished. Was it
So last summer?
I think it was a summer. Yeah, last summer.
Like a year?
Almost.
So technically in 1 year you could open your own shop. If you do, I'll burn it down. I promise. So then like that's now apprenticeships are being watered down because people who are probably should still be technically apprenticing are, so that's why like the statutes and the bylaws are all kind of like a catch-22. It's like, cool, there's a measurement of time associated with that thing, but does that mean that thing's done? Like, well, I did my 200 hours. Okay, now the clock starts where now all I have to do is be licensed for 2 years, and then I can start taking on apprentices. That doesn't mean that's when that's okay. The government has no idea. They're just writing shit down so that they can get a bill passed, because that's what they're there for.
I always think of it in the sense of like blue collar trade work, where like, are you gonna have somebody who's been doing electrical for 2 years go and teach a bunch of people how to do electrical? Because God, I hope not.
Yeah.
Like, it's
right.
You don't know anything.
Here's all of my apprentices.
I've been doing HVAC for I think 3 years now, and I literally know like nothing. I'm a fucking idiot. Like I kind of know what to do, but like there's no way I could like legitimately teach somebody how to be successful in HVAC.
Well, there's no doubt that there's always going to be somebody a few steps ahead that can learn from you. But again, this is not HVAC, this is like the human body.
That's just, bringing it to a non-tattooer's mind in my...
Yeah, so for something like tattooing, it's hopefully like, I need to, I don't know where I was going with that.
And we're pivoting.
Yep. Let's see. Oh, what are some red flags to watch out for in bad apprenticeships? What are some red flags to watch out for? So like, what would you consider to be a red flag if... What did you mean by that? What did ChatGPT mean by that question?
It could go either way, huh? Like, as a mentor, what would be a red flag to someone you're taking on as an apprentice? And then as an apprentice, what are red flags what would turn you off? I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I think in my mind when I had on that, it was somebody who's like going to a shop,
yeah,
doesn't know anybody there, there's no sort of connection. Like, okay, we'll take you on, but are you actually learning anything?
So for the artist, the pupil, person who's wanting to learn, on their side,
like, how do you know you're at like a decent place or under
reputable
guidance?
How would that? I don't even know. I mean, I know how I would answer that, but I can't put myself in those shoes.
You don't really necessarily know if you don't know anything about.
Yeah, so then you just kind of like, well, I just hope to go until somebody says yes. Okay, is that good? Then what do you watch out for? What do you look out for? So maybe that's a question, but then I think you asked a question whenever you thought about that. That was like, but what should a mentor look for? So first, for an apprentice or somebody who's wanting to find an apprenticeship, okay, you get the yes. Now what? Now what's important to you, to that person when they're coming in? What, I guess, like, what should they hope for? What should they expect even in that transaction when they get approved to come in and learn tattooing? Like, what's your guys' take on that? Does that question make sense?
I think so. I think in my brain, your expectation should just be kind of going back to how can you prepare the shop, your mentor, like for every day that you're there, or the days that you're not there, even stocking up on stuff or whatever, and just being open to learn. If you think you know everything, you're not probably gonna succeed.
Yeah. And or maybe what should people who are trying to do this the right way and get an apprenticeship look for? in a shop, a mentor.
And I think when you walk in, first impression's a big deal. So I remember liking what I saw when I came in. I'm like, it's clean. I think I called it cute.
Get out.
But I liked it. And I'm like, okay, this feels good. I think sitting down with you, you had really open communication. And I knew that wasn't going to be a trouble spot because I really appreciate communication. And then I know that, you know, I'm going to thrive because that's something I need. I'm not going to be stuck in limbo or second guessing myself. Things will be laid out clearly. So I think those were my first, just like as I came in that first day, the things that I saw that I knew were going to be helpful and good.
Yeah.
And then just like, even for yourself, like your mindset is going to be like, that's going to impact everything too. Are you going to be able to communicate as well? Like, and can you handle critique and feedback? Because that's going to be helpful. Like you have to have feedback, and you have to be able to receive correction and guidance.
Yeah.
I think that's a good one. Like, just your first impression walking in, like, as being a tattooed person, like, and a guy, I've felt like uncomfortable in certain tattoo shops before,
I do,
which I can't imagine. You know, it's like, I think that's definitely trust that intuition for sure, because if you feel uncomfortable, then you're going to be there every single day. And like, I feel like if it's super obvious to you that like you and I probably wouldn't see eye to eye on things, or like you're going to be spending a lot of time together, like something to consider.
Yeah.
And again, maybe hard to see at like a single interaction, but something potentially to be mindful of.
Well, I think what hopefully is happening is that maybe shops who've been around for a minute, owners, they're gaining reputation. Like where I've worked before, they were like super well known for teaching people how to tattoo. And most of the time they did a good job. I mean, there's one dude who learned there, he's still there, and he is such an amazing tattooer. He was always a great artist, but I still look at his work, I'm like, oh my gosh, why do you think that way? Red flags for me, what time do you show up? I'm paying attention, and I'm literally watching the clock. Like, okay, it's 10 minutes to, are they here? 5 minutes to. I had one dude, never on time. And I told him repeatedly, I want you here on time. I'll do my best. Fuck that. No, you just do it. Because that's not too much to ask, because now what that's going to translate is that now you're going to be late for your clients. And they're taking time out of their life and out of their day and weekend, and they're coming with money to give that to you, and they're going to trust you. And like, that's just, and so then for me, if I just let that slide, now I'm setting like this bar that it's okay to just kind of whatever. But I do understand though that tattooing especially, there's a lot of people who do that. I've been tattooed by a guy who does that, but whatever. So it's just being respectful of, well, I'm here waiting on you. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for you.
Right.
Because we agreed that I'm going to teach you and you wanted to learn. So I think timeliness is a thing. And then I've also given people assignments, like those assignments, drawing, and I'm like, you literally just copied that from the internet. You didn't even trace it. You just cut it and put it on your flash sheet. Yeah. It's like, I'm not fucking stupid, dude.
Right.
I can see it's pixelated.
Right.
Like, did you draw those pixels? Well, use reference. Okay. I'm gonna let you lie to me, but I understand what you just totally just shit the bed on this. And then, yeah, maybe what else? How are they with clients? Do they have personable skills? That was one thing that you were really good at, like right off the bat.
Thank you.
Damn, where did you learn this? I haven't even taught you that yet, but you know, is obviously like a person who's good with people, that's going to be a benefit, because also tattooers are usually not good with people.
I think I try to be like
A lot
that
of
because I've been that, like I said
Mhm.
before,
You've been in
super
that-
uncomfortable, and I'm
Yeah.
like, how can I make sure that you don't feel like that? Because that sucks,
It does.
and it's super weird, and you don't ever go back.
I think
most
the
of the
other
time.
thing that I usually look for is like, are you here just to get to the thing, or do you really have a passion to be here? And so that, you guys remember too, like, what's your why?
Mm-hmm.
That's super important to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's like, oh, I've just always wanted to do this, I think it's awesome, and I want to make a lot of money, okay, you can go.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's like your why was the easiest why, like, okay, this is like probably the coolest reason why anybody would want to learn how to tattoo, I'm still convinced that it probably is, other than, I just love art and it just touches my heart. And it's like, those are sweet, but to be able to literally want to help people
Mm-hmm.
through tattooing is awesome. And I don't know that really exists out there. Of course, we all want our art to touch people's heart.
Right.
And so then what's your why? You know, and I have heard, like, I don't know, I just thought it's something I should try. Okay, bad answer.
Mm-hmm.
We'll give it a shot though. But yeah, it's like, well, I've always, you know, I was raised in it. I've always been intrigued by it. I want to learn more about it. I love the history. I love the, you know, just kind of like in your blood almost. Then it's like, okay, that's probably a person who's going to maybe last a little bit longer and then take this serious too. So one thing that's not on this list though is, do you guys think apprenticeships should cost money?
I do.
I think as long
And if
as
so, why?
go ahead.
I think long run, it's like I went to school to learn something so that I could make a career path
Mhm.
and make money.
Mhm.
But also I think tattooing it's priceless what you're learning.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think knowing the value of what you're receiving, of course I'd want to pay money to learn
Mhm.
something that I think is so valuable. But also you're taking time out of your day to
Mhm.
sit with us where you're not even tattooing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember I crunched the numbers, like how much money then, if I were to take it, is he kind of making by the hour if I were to break it down just for the
200.
supervision hours? And that doesn't include
yeah.
the logged hours. That doesn't include teaching us how to just exist here and do everything else. And I was like, I feel like it should be more.
Mhm.
I thought so. To me, I was like, that's really reasonable.
Okay.
If I break it like that.
And that has changed my perspective. But now I want, what's your answer? Do you think it should cost money? And
Yeah, I think like if you know, like I know that I'm getting, like she said, a priceless education from you.
Mhm.
Like I wasted like $13,000 at some stupid ass video school at community college. I didn't learn a goddamn thing. You know what I mean? It's like it's the whole thing of like teaching you how to make lemonade or whatever the hell they say. You know, like this, as long as you take it serious and you hone it and you really care about it and want to learn, is like you can make money from doing it for a lifetime potentially, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just like investing in yourself is important, you know, and like that to me, I was like, I'm investing in good education. You give me education resources all the time beyond just like being here, which is priceless again, because you don't know what to look for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely, like she said, I honestly think, especially now being where I'm at in the apprenticeship process, I think that it could definitely be a lot more than it is, in my opinion.
Well, it is going to be now,
Yeah.
for sure. So, and for those numbers, I think the first person I apprenticed, I think it was like, okay, $2,500. That seemed like a lot of money. And that's embarrassing to say. And then I think the next person was like $4,000 maybe. And then for you guys, it was $5,000. And so then with that number now being out, but I've heard of other people doing $10,000.
I've heard of that.
$13,000. And so up front, that is a lot of money. But, you know, like where else are you going to be able to learn something like this? That, because let's say if you do go to a trade school and you learn electrical work, very important. I really firmly believe people should do that because those are dying arts and trades and we need them. But you're gonna have to pay money, I think, especially if it's trade school. And then your learning is almost like measurable, and then it just stops. And now, but with tattooing, there's always going to be something to learn. And so when you crunch the numbers of $5,000 only on the supervised 200 hours, it's $25 an hour. Yeah.
I was like,
yeah, you put that into perspective. And when you did that, I'm like, oh. So I would easily raise it to $10,000.
Right.
And think about it though. You're going to be able to come into an industry, a career, a community where at least how I do it, you know, you guys do this amount of tattoos for free. You do this amount of tattoos for $50, this amount for $100. However, that shakes out to be, are you making a lot of money or not is really up to where you're at. Skill level. But I remember working with a dude who I didn't apprentice. He was an apprentice at the time. And I think it was when he was allowed to charge $50 an hour, he was like, I have never made this much money. It's like I went home and told my wife, I'm about to make $50 an hour. Because he'd always done like these other jobs and stuff. And so, whereas now that's kind of like starting to get to be a norm. Not many people can charge and people happily pay this much money to get what they're getting. And so then all that to say, like that's what can come through paying. But then also there's two sides to that. One, there's assholes that are charging that much money and they're teaching nothing. And that's what sucks. And that'd be horrible. Those are the people who I hope their arms fall off.
Yeah.
But then there's other people, which I know for a fact, you get this here only because I have old resources and I've tapped into people who have done this longer than I have. I know some of the resources that you guys have access to, they don't exist. Like there's people flipping them, they're reselling them because one, they just don't make them anymore. And then like, just even take the Joshua Carlton DVDs. I don't know that you can get those anymore. Maybe you can. Mine are autographed, so they're better. And he's dead. But those DVDs they catapulted my ability drastically. And so it's just, so whenever you pay somebody and then kind of going back to what should a person look for in maybe their mentor, how long have they been around?
Yeah.
What is their circle like? What's their web? Are they attached? Are they active? And I would even say, are they actively getting tattooed?
Yeah.
I've worked with people who hadn't been tattooed in like 15 years and the tattoo that they had is dog shit. Like, why are you not partaking in your own thing? You're literally like, I feel like that's almost like a way of just taking from it. And I hate that. It's like, well, I just make money. And, you know, but don't you want to go and, like, I think for me, in that same person, I'm like, well, you should get that piece of shit lasered because you're also running a laser company. It's fine. You don't want to know what that feels like. So whenever you're selling this product and your person sitting there, you have no idea how to explain this to them. And so getting tattooed, I feel like too, it just kind of keeps you in the loop. You're always in this thing. Because imagine a person who was starting as a mechanic and they only worked on 1973 cars. They never went past that. This is all I work on. Okay, that doesn't make sense. Why don't you want to see what's happening now in this other shop? So I think those are other things that a person, when they're looking, should or could look for is obviously what's the value for the, and you should expect to pay for it. And then look at the amount that you're being charged and base whether that's worth it to you on how long has that person been around, what's the reputation of the shop, what are the tools that you're going to get to learn, and honestly, what is that artist's capabilities? Because if their capabilities are only this much, like, oh, I only specialize in fine line work, that means you haven't learned the other simple fundamentals of tattooing. And then that for sure means you have not been able to build off of other things. So now you have no idea how to do portraiture. You have no idea how to do realism. You have no idea how to do any of these other things. You have no idea what doing this thing means to do it. And so now you're just, and that's the unfortunate part, is that there's owners out there who that's how they're making money. They're taking on apprentices, charging them money, lots of money, and teaching them hardly anything at all. And that's so bad.
I had something to add on to the paying for apprenticeships too. I haven't crunched the numbers, but just a thought that popped into my head is by the time, at least like what we have going here as of right now, by the time that you are done with your apprenticeship, you should be ahead, even paying for your education.
You probably have already, you should have already made that back.
Even with investments in equipment and supplies, you still like, again, it's just like investing in yourself and, you know, Because then hopefully your mentor is also teaching you that, hey, that's a write-off, that's a write-off. You should get that because that's also a write-off. And have you considered this? Have you considered sticking stickers on the Dunkin' drive-through? That's what I've done and it's worked. So it's all those little bitty things that I don't know that people think that or understand that they can learn, that they should learn. This is not only are you learning how to do a thing, but you're learning a business. I think that I firmly believe that should come along with an apprenticeship. Is like, well, I'm going to teach you how to do the thing. That thing's going to in turn probably make you more money than you've ever made. Hopefully we'll teach you also how to manage that money, how to prepare for taxes. You probably have never set aside taxes before this. You never had to worry about it, but now you do. At least you should. And if you don't, trust me, I've been there. And here's this. So there's so much that goes into it, for sure. And I don't know how long we've been doing. Oh, this has gone over an hour. So, how has the tattoo apprenticeship process changed over the years? Do you guys have any input in that? I can be quick on it.
I mean, I haven't been around. So.
Okay.
The guy who had tattooed me initially and like meeting you and learning and kind of rubbing elbows with some of your people, I feel like it seemed like to me and what I know now, things have kind of evolved a little bit in the sense of like all you guys definitely like, all right, dude, let's figure it out, let's learn. And then it seems like maybe more of a common thing at the time, but like, I don't know, maybe not. It seems to me now where like, I know apprenticeship is definitely, you know, because there's good resources if you can find them. And like you said back then, you go in somewhere and what, fuck you, get out of here, yada, 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 whatever.
Well, I do think too, as far as the resources go, it was like probably like 15 years ago where resources they used to be harder to obtain. Like I have
Oh, yeah.
DVDs that I paid
Spells.
$150 for one DVD.
Mm-hmm.
Who's gonna pay $150 for a DVD? I rented a DVD for $100. Like, can I just watch this?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to borrow it. I will pay you money.
Mm-hmm.
I rented it for one night. That's the time that I had. I gladly did it. And so now all that shit is out there. But I think the other thing that, okay, now maybe you don't have to pay for it, but is it the right information?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of free information for sure, but it's got to be free for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Like if this is really held close to your heart and it's a craft that you really care about, then why are you giving away this information for free? Well, it's to help people. Okay, but are you really helping people? Because you're not even next to them. You don't even know if their armpits stink. You haven't shaken their hand. But as far as how the process has changed, I know I've heard stories of, one, it used to be extremely hard to get an apprenticeship. And I don't even know if everybody even charged for them because it was so hard. And so just to land an apprenticeship was like, oh, I hit the jackpot. But then, yeah, you'd have to learn how to make needles. Most of the time, there were not the machines that are out there today and disposable as much as there are today. So one thing that you would always be guaranteed that you were going to be doing every day was scrubbing tubes. And that is the most mind-numbing, miserable way to spend time, especially when the ultrasonic is this big and it's overflowing with stainless steel tubes that have to be hand cleaned and then sterilized. That takes hours. And then you hope that you don't poke your finger with the cleaning brush while you're doing it. It's happened.
Yeah.
Yep. Or it doesn't splash in your eye or any of this stuff. So that's one thing. And then you have to hope that you go in early enough to get it all done by the time you start tattooing. And then there's this whole thing you got to plan for. Like, I got to get in, I got to scrub tubes. I got to then bag them. I got to autoclave them, all this stuff. That doesn't really happen that much anymore. Making needles, I mentioned, I don't even know how to do that, so I wouldn't even know how to teach it, but that's gone. But I have heard of people, so, watch, clean, draw. A dude who's like, you need to be watching me tattoo, and he caught his apprentice not watching. He's like, go stand in the corner and look up at the ceiling for an hour. And that's how just nitty gritty this used to be, and now it's just fucking YouTube. And that's how they've changed. And that's why, one, it's so flooded, the market's so flooded with idiots who don't appreciate what we're doing. They don't care about the client. The client is like not the most important person in the transaction anymore. It's the artist. They're the most important badass thing that walked the earth, and I just hate it. And that's usually why I hate doing conventions. Like everybody's just, it's just this ego thing. It's an ego fest, and I'm so sick of it. I hate it. And that's another thing. Conventions used to be so hard to get into. It used to either be invite only, or if you wanted to get a booth, they would check just like Lucky Supply does. They want to make sure you're legit. I appreciate that. That's gone. It's all gone. And so, all that to say, apprenticeships are important. I think to keep the integrity of tattooing alive and well, and to hopefully keep just the sacred part of what I believe tattooing should be alive and well. And it should be an investment on everybody's part. The mentor should definitely have a lot of investment in what they're doing too. Because I'm at the point now where, I think I'm on the downhill of my abilities, and so it's like, okay, well, now what's next for me? Because I don't ever want to get out of tattooing. So now it's just I want to leave a legacy now. So I want to continue to feed tattooing because it's fed me for so many years, and I want to just keep supplying it with really good people, and I want to mingle with those people. And you know, if I get the opportunity to maybe have taught the next best tattoo artist, then that's crazy to me. I'll do my best. So that's why an apprenticeship. So knowing that all this is pretty popular, actually somebody, a good friend, he showed me 2 graphs of like what has changed in tattooing. I can't remember what the first one is, and it was like whatever number, but then the next one was like how to become a tattooer, and that search was just massive.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So me being who I am, I'm like, well, I should capitalize on that somehow. So I did write like a short guide, and it's an ebook. It's on Amazon, and thankfully Dru wrote it down for me. It's called Become a Tattoo Artist, a simple guide to help get you started, or something like that. It's on Amazon. It's an ebook, so you can take it with you or whatever. It basically covers a little bit of what we covered here. It is not, I don't share trade secrets.
Right.
I'm smarter than that. But I do talk about the differences between things, so at least there's some lingo that's talked about, but then it's also like, here's kind of what you should expect. Here's how to be prepared. But it is like, I do cover the why in there, making sure that you have a good why. And if you don't, stay out, because we don't need you. And then just making sure that you're coming into this thing with a respect and a reverence, because that's how it should be handled. And I have 0 respect for anybody who doesn't come in with that, or at least the willingness to learn about that. Because I understand it may not be that way. Like, you don't understand that this stuff has been there hundreds of years before today, and then it was not always this easy. People had to work really, really hard to get where they are today, and I don't ever want that to be lost or forgotten. So, and I think if anybody ever gets an apprenticeship here, again, I'm going to require them to not only read that, but watch every one of our podcasts. Because, hey, we're doing it. Why shouldn't they?
Right.
Why shouldn't they spend all the time?
I've learned so many things. Even just picking your brain and talking to all these different people. Just sitting and chatting and talking.
We've only scratched the surface,
right.
too. Yeah, because there's people who aren't even coming in here that you'll probably get to meet.
It's another thing that's super, super valuable is like being introduced to your network. Yeah. In this world and in the craft and business or whatever, like that's priceless in itself.
Not only my network, but it's the network of people who've said yes to come here. There's plenty who've said no. So hopefully you'll get to meet those people someday too, because they also have, but they're also like, they're keeping this thing tucked away and close to their chest, which I appreciate and I respect it. So that's all we wrote.
Cool.
Thanks, Dru.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.